Morning, guys. Just wanted to do a quick update on my current tattoo progress, kind of what I'm up to this week. So yesterday we added more black lines to this side of my shoulder area now. They're a little bit different because the space was different than this shoulder had to work with. As you can see, this is fully healed. So that's what the other side will look like once we fill them in. And then I'm planning on eventually bringing that same sort of filigree all the way up my shoulders to my neck, and just kind of swirly filigree designs, almost like a filigree mantle, similar to like how I had my old rose mantle, like the chest and um, the shoulders and the neck all roses. I'm gonna have something similar to that in black on black filigree eventually. It's just kind of getting there. So yeah, we did all of that. Plus we did kind of the upper back of this arm here. You can see where the fresh black is versus the old stuff. And just a bit of black ink smear there. I'll have to get that later. Yeah, so yeah, that whole outer arm and shoulder cap was done again. Probably the next tattoo session, we're gonna do the whole lower arm. We'll start from kind of the ditch and do all the way down to the wrist like we did on the other side again. And then 2 weeks from then, we're gonna finish the arm off. So it'll be 3 sessions, and that session will fill these filigrees in. And then I also got this moon whited out. We did some details in there, but some of the details have literally already started to fall out, which is not unexpected, especially this being our first go at the white ink. You can see where the solid white at the tips is probably going to be pretty good, but then we did some white shading to give some details, almost like a realistic moon. Those probably aren't going to work as well, at least not on the first go. They'll probably be pretty patchy if they stay at all. As I said, not at all unexpected. Me and Rick were even laughing about, let's see if this works out. Because if it doesn't work out, we can just pound it full of white, and we haven't really lost anything. And then from there, if I still don't like that, then we just black it out again. We're in that kind of territory where if it doesn't work out, it's not really a big loss. We just start over. And I don't really mind that. Some people are confused, like, you said this was going to be a full blackout. First off, I never said that, ever. Second, it is kind of close to a full blackout, yes. But I still have my chest piece and the eye, obviously, which I think I'm going to end up doing one more time next year. I think it can still be a little darker, but right now it's kind of like what I'm putting into that eye isn't coming back necessarily. Like, sometimes when you have something so saturated already, it's really hard to change it much. But I do think that there's one or two more things I can do to make it a bit darker. But the eye has been worked on 4 or 5 times already, so it's getting a little set in its ways. Same as the teeth of the eye they're pretty well, they've been done, I'd say 4 or 5 times too. And some of them are so scarred that they bleed as soon as you even touch them. So limited in what I can do with some things. But yeah, in terms of this, I do like how it looks right now. It's a little puckered up right now still, and it's a little more red than it will be. Like, it looks pretty white, but what I mean to say is anytime you do shading in particular, or white ink at all, what happens is the area gets irritated, and then obviously irritated skin goes a little bit red. And because white is so clear, that red tinges it a little bit pinky. It looks a little pink/red after you do it. So that will calm down. And obviously, when you're covering black with white, there's some weird graying that happens in some of the area. So like the first picture that I post, it looks really, really white because it's just fresh put in. But once that ink starts to blend together a little bit underneath, it does have a bit of a graying effect, which is why some websites, or rather pages like Instagram pages, like white over black tattoos, there's a lot of really cool tattoos that they'll post, but then you'll never see the healed version of it. They have a little section on their page where you can tap to see healed tattoos, and there's very few of them. Some of them look really good, but always with a white ink project, you should expect to do it 2 to 3 times, I would say. And that's why we started really, really small. The first one, I did something really, really simple, because if it doesn't work out, no big deal. Some people will start out with a huge white ink design, and they'll probably get a little bit burnt out on it if it doesn't work out right away, or they'll get a little bit upset or wonder what went wrong, right? So the danger of expectations with white ink. But it's fun. Like, I will say, the white ink was a little more painful than most other inks. Like, obviously, when I was younger, when I would get white ink, it would be as highlights in a finished piece, like right at the end, okay, now it's time for the white. And then that would be the most painful part of the session, kind of thing. And I never really understood why until just recently. I was talking to Kevin about it at the shop, and it's because the ink is actually quite a bit thicker. Like, white ink is quite a bit thicker, so there's more pressure going in, so it does a little more trauma to the skin. So top that on top of the fact that you usually do white ink over top of either already saturated work as a highlight, or older work that you're covering. Like, for example, this hand I figured out has been done 10 times. I've had this hand tattooed 10 times. I had these stars on this hand at one point. These, like, they look like kapows, like old comic book kapows. They were red and black. And then later I added, like, the finishing to my old Spawn sleeve was like the end of a cloak, and that went to my knuckles. I had that done 3 separate times to get the red as saturated it was, so that's at 4 there. Then I had the hand blacked out twice, just to black out to the knuckles to cover the old red. And then after that, Lee and I did the fingers 3 times, but the fingers were done 3 times. We also hit the hand while we were there, just to darken it up while we were in the area. And then just 2 weeks ago, I had this moon outlined, and then yesterday I had this moon filled. So yeah, 10 times overall for this hand. That might be, it's, if not the most I've had an area tattooed, it's close. I know I've had my throat tattooed, I think 7 times. This hand has been done 7 times. Both of my arms are probably double digits. Like I said, I just started doing this one again. And then I think my chest has probably been worked on close to double digits too. Both of my armpits have been done 5 times, maybe 6 times for one of them. So I'm getting into the point where someone will ask me a question like, how does it feel when you get your such and such tattooed? And I have a hard time answering that, because, like, it changes a little bit every time for me, and I can't remember the first time anymore. So my only answer is, like, which time? Like, someone will say, oh, how much did it hurt to get your nipples done? Well, I think the first time hurt the most, but by the time you've had them done 6 times, you're kind of used to it and you don't really mind so much anymore. Which is weird, because it actually seems to hurt a little more, but you get mentally more prepared for the feeling you're going to get. Especially if you're using a lot of the same needle groupings all the time. Like, almost all my work these days is done with mags. And I really, really know what mags feel like, and I'm very used to it. So, like, my body almost syncs up to that feeling immediately. Where I have done a lot of liners too. Like, my first suit was done a lot with liners, all the tentacles and stuff. But since I haven't done as many liners recently, I'm not as used to them. So when I feel liner, it hurts more. But it's also, like, almost nostalgic, because I used to get tattooed a lot by them. I'm starting to get back into that a little bit with the white ink and the black ink stuff, or the black line work stuff. So it's kind of like nostalgic in a way, I guess. Yeah. Some of my next few plans are going to be, obviously, like I said, see, we've got these little filigree trails here and here. I want to bridge that up all the way to the sides of the neck and then kind of bridge it all the way up, probably right to the tip of my chin, somewhere in there. So it'll be like I have like almost like a candelabra of filigree, and we'll just fill the black up all the way to the bases of those filigrees. Because if you see, I have this thing happening here now where the old black is meeting the new black, and the new black is quite a bit darker. So either what you need to do to make that work is re-black everything up here, or incorporate a design that kind of builds off of the old black from the new black. And that way I'm not just recharting old territory, which is fine, but rather than just doing something old, may as well have a little bit of fun with it, you know, while I'm there. And by then, I think I'll be probably getting tattooed every 3 weeks, but I do need to finish up my stomach. Well, finish up. It's been done forever, let's be honest. But there's some spots that you can see aren't as solid as others. And my belly button could stand to go a fourth time, because belly buttons tend to metabolize fairly quickly. You always see those videos of people with the ink cap and the belly button, and then you never really see healed photos of belly buttons, because it's almost like, I think a lot of people only want to ever do that once. But the true story is that the belly button doesn't really take very well always once, especially since the black ink gets stuck in all sorts of places in the belly button. It's hard to tell what's saturated versus what's ink, like just dried ink, like I have on this arm right here. Like you get a lot of that when you're messing around with the belly button. So you generally will always have to do that at least twice if you want it to work. Not saying most people care that much, but for me, I want my belly button, the inside of it, to be as solid as, say, this. You know, same reason I did my nipples so many times, because it can be done, so it will be done. But yeah, rambling a bit now. But yeah, there's the moon. So that's day 2. By day 5, I expected it will be quite a bit less solid and real subtle. The first time you do white ink is real subtle, and I expect the second time will be quite subtle too. But I think by the third time, you can expect it to be pretty striking, and I'm committed to getting there. The only thing I'm not sure about is whether we're going to be able to get these details to stand or not, or if we're just going to end up pounding it with white, which would be cool too. Because as I said, Rick and I were just kind of trying to see what's possible first. And it looks like quite a bit of the white is already kind of dripped out. So yeah, but it's cool. Had a lot of fun with it. Learning experience. So anyway, I'll make another one of these next week, and I'll show off the healed moon then. And I'll show off the healed lines and all that stuff. And by then I'll have another session. This whole forearm will be saturated next week. And I'll talk a bit about how that goes. Anyway, thanks for watching.